Levi Rivers took the stairs 2 at a time. He couldn't wait for the elevator, not today. Not when Liam had texted him and Leah with a rare, urgent request. Come to my place. Need to talk. Important. Important could mean anything with Liam. Sometimes it meant he had finished a painting at 3 a.m. and needed witnesses to celebrate. Sometimes it meant he had rescued a stray cat and needed help convincing the landlord to let it stay. Sometimes it meant absolutely nothing, except that he was lonely. But this message felt different. Short, direct. No emojis, no jokes. No, bring pizza, or Levi, please don't wear a suit. Levi knew something was off. He punched in the penthouse access code as he reached the top floor. The polished black doors swung open into Liam's bachelor pad, an open, luxurious space of glass, steel, and sunlight. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, the view so breathtaking that clients often asked to buy the unit. Liam never let them. He said the penthouse was his sanctuary, a place where the world felt quiet enough to breathe. "Lee?" Levi called, stepping in. The scent of turpentine and sandalwood lingered in the air, typical Liam. Canvases leaned against the walls, unfinished, vibrant, chaotic. Paintbrushes scattered the kitchen island. Music hummed from the stereo, low and melancholy. Levi paused. Liam only played sad music when something inside him was cracking. Leo was already there, pacing near the balcony with a tension Levi hadn't seen in him in years. Their older brother was usually the calm one, stable, steady, the anchor of the family. But today, Leo's jaw was tight, his movements restless. "You got here fast," Leo muttered. "You said urgent. Where is he?" Leo just nodded toward the bedroom. Levi's stomach sank. The three of them, Leo at 36, Levi and Liam at 31, had always been inseparable. Losing their parents young cemented that bond. They built their lives around each other, and later, 3L Corp grew out of that brotherhood. Leo and Levi handled the business and design. Liam floated on their success, living beautifully, unhurried, a dreamer wandering through creation. Levi never minded being the builder to Liam's artist. Liam's existence made life brighter. They owed him that much. Levi walked toward the bedroom, heart hammering. "Lee?" he called softly. The door opened before he touched it. Liam stood there. And for the first time, Levi truly saw it. How thin he'd become. How pale. How the sparkle in his eyes flickered like a candle fighting wind. Liam had always been a burst of color, full of lazy grins and effortless charm. Today, he looked dimmed. "Hey," Liam said, smiling, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "You made it." "What's going on?" Levi asked immediately. "You scared us." Liam stepped back and gestured for them to enter. The bedroom was spotless, too spotless. Liam never cleaned unless he needed control over chaos. And on the bed sat an envelope, sealed, with all three of their initials written across it. Leo joined them, crossing his arms tightly. "Liam, talk to us." Liam took a shaky breath and closed the door. He leaned against it as if his legs needed the support. "I didn't know how to say this, but I have to. And I need you both here to hear it." Levi's pulse thundered. Leo stiffened. Liam swallowed, throat working visibly. "I'm sick." The words crashed into the air like concrete shattering. Levi blinked. "Sick? What do you mean, sick?" Liam let out a shaky exhale. "Cancer." The ground tilted beneath Levi. For a second, he couldn't breathe. He heard Leo's sharp inhale, saw his brother's fingers curl into fists. But the sound that broke Levi was Liam's soft, almost apologetic voice. "It's terminal." "No." Levi took a step forward. "Liam, no. I have 3 months, maybe less." Silence swallowed the room whole. The city lights outside seemed impossibly far away, like another universe entirely, one where this moment didn't exist. Levi felt the world splinter inside him. Rage, fear, helplessness, all of it clawed through his chest. "How?" Leo croaked. "How long have you known?" "A week," Liam's voice cracked. "I didn't know how to say it until I had to." "You should have told us." Levi pressed a hand to his forehead, shaking. "I know. I'm sorry." Leo stared at him, devastated, trembling. "We're your brothers. You don't carry this alone." Liam nodded weakly, tears spilling. "I know. That's why I called you both." Levi finally noticed something else in the room. Liam's packed suitcase. Clean clothes folded, paint supplies arranged neatly, a sketchbook placed neatly on top. "Where are you going?" Levi whispered.
"I don't know," Liam said. "Anywhere. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can breathe for a little while before it gets worse." Levi stepped forward and grabbed his brother's shoulders. "You're not facing this alone," he said fiercely. Liam smiled a soft, heartbreaking smile. "I was hoping you'd say that." Leo placed a hand on Liam's back. "We'll figure this out together." For a moment, the 3 brothers stood there, holding on to one another, terrified of what came next. The air tasted like grief, not yet fully formed, but already settling around them. Liam wiped his eyes and took a shaky breath. "There's more," he said softly, glancing at the envelope on the bed. Levi looked at him sharply. "More?" Liam nodded. "But not today. One heartbreak at a time." Leo exhaled shakily. "Whatever it is, we'll face it." Liam smiled sadly. "I know." And in that moment, Levi realized something that punched through his chest. Liam had called them here not to ask for help, but to say goodbye in pieces. The resort sat on the edge of the world, or at least that's what Liam thought the moment he arrived. Nestled between towering emerald cliffs and a restless turquoise ocean, Solara Haven Resort was the kind of place people visited to escape their lives, and the kind of place Liam had come to make peace with his ending. Sunlight spilled over the white stone terraces, casting warm gold over the infinity pools that seemed to flow straight into the sea. Every corner smelled of jasmine, salt water, and citrus blossoms carried by the breeze. Glass walkways connected the suites, elevated above lush gardens that shimmered with orchids, hibiscus, and whispering palms. At night, lanterns lit the pathways, casting soft amber halos across the sand like stars fallen to earth. His suite was perched high above the shore, a minimalist sanctuary of pale wood, floor-to-ceiling windows, and white linen drapes that billowed like breath. The balcony overlooked waves crashing onto pearl-white sand, the horizon stretching endlessly, quiet and forgiving. Liam never felt more alive and more fragile all at once. He painted every day. Sunrises, crashing waves, flowers, shadows, memories, anything that kept the fear from tightening around his lungs. His canvases leaned against walls, scattered with bursts of color he didn't have the strength to name. His brothers called constantly. Leo's voice always calm, steady, grounding. Levi's always edged with worry he tried to hide. "I'm fine," Liam repeated over and over, knowing it soothed them, even if it wasn't true. On the 5th day, he felt restless.
A soft ache pulsed through his bones, but he ignored it. He packed 5 paintings, new ones, alive with the kind of raw emotion he usually hid, and carried them to the resort's private gallery. The space was all glass and sunlight, the air filled with soft instrumental music. Guests drifted past the displayed pieces, sipping wine, murmuring quietly. Liam wasn't expecting anyone to notice him or his work. He never expected much anymore. Then he saw her, standing in front of his favorite painting, the one he had poured his fear, hope, and breaking heart into. Her back was to him at first. A cascade of deep auburn curls brushed her shoulders, catching the light like dark fire. Her dress was a soft lavender, flowing and elegant, cinched at the waist and fluttering gently around her legs as she leaned forward, studying the canvas with curious intensity. Something fluttered in Liam's chest, something he hadn't felt in months. Interest, recognition, a spark. He stepped closer. And then she glanced over her shoulder. For a moment, the room dissolved. Her eyes, deep amethyst-tinted brown, met his, and Liam felt seen, completely, disarmed, like she was looking past the shell of him, straight into the parts he thought cancer had already stolen. She smiled softly, the kind that lifted something inside him he thought had died. "Hi," she said, her voice warm and velvety. "You like that?" Liam froze at the simple question, not because of the words, but because of how she said them, like she was inviting him into a moment he didn't dare want. He glanced at the painting, a swirl of blues and sunlight, a man standing on a cliff's edge with the sea raging below. "I painted it." Her brow shot up in surprise, then a slow, appreciative smile spread across her lips. "Well," she breathed, turning fully toward him, "it's stunning." Liam's heart knocked against his ribs. He swallowed. "Thank you." She extended her hand. "Amethyst," she said. "Amy for short."
He took her hand carefully, too aware of how warm and soft it felt in his cold fingers. "Liam," he replied, trying to hide the tremor in his voice. "Nice to meet you." They stood there for a moment too long, neither quite letting go, neither quite ready to look away. "So, artist," Amy asked, her head tilting as she studied him with genuine interest, "why does this piece feel like it's longing for something?" Liam's breath hitched. "I guess," he said softly, eyes drifting back to the painting, "I was trying to capture a moment before a fall or before a flight. Depends on how you look at it." She hummed thoughtfully. "Maybe both." Liam smiled, small, hesitant. He liked that answer more than he should. They moved to the next painting together, then the next, talking easily about colors, emotions, stories, things he hadn't had the strength to share with anyone in months. Amy's presence felt like sunlight on cold skin, gentle but awakening. And with every moment, Liam felt something terrifying and beautiful. He was drawn to her, completely, irrevocably, like a bee to honey. And she looked back at him like she felt it too. For the first time since the doctor had spoken the words,
terminal cancer. Liam Rivers truly regretted he didn't have more time. Not for himself, for her.
The days that followed their meeting moved softly, wrapped in a warm, impossible glow. Breakfast conversations on sunlit terraces, quiet strolls along jasmine-lined paths, late afternoon sketches with her sitting nearby watching the ocean. Amy fit into his world with an ease that terrified him. Every time she smiled at him, every time her eyes lingered a second too long, every time her voice softened when she said his name, something in Liam cracked open and bloomed. And yet, every moment with her carved another deep ache into his ribs. He didn't have time. He didn't have a future. And he absolutely couldn't drag her into the tragedy of his last months. Amy deserved life, light, love that stayed. Not a dying man whose clock was ticking louder every day. Liam sat with her one evening at the edge of the resort's cliffside gardens. The sun was melting into the ocean, turning the sky into streaks of fire and rose gold. Amy hugged her knees to her chest beside him, her hair fluttering gently in the wind, her silence peaceful. He looked at her and felt his breath hitch. He barely knew her, and yet he had never felt more understood. And that terrified him. Being near her was like being reminded of everything he would never get to have. A life, a relationship, a future, a home, a partner. Something Levi would have. Something Levi deserved. And there it was, another stab of guilt. Because Liam knew his twin. He knew Levi's heart, his patterns, his type. Amy was exactly Levi's type. Beautiful, quietly radiant. Smart, in a way that didn't announce itself, but settled around her like grace. Grounded, thoughtful, almost reserved. A natural homemaker, the kind of woman who made peace feel possible. Levi had always fallen deeply, once he fell. And Amy? She was the kind of woman Levi would fall for without hesitation. Liam stared at her, his grief lodging like a stone in his throat. Maybe in another life, he would have introduced them. Maybe he would have teased Levi relentlessly when his brother blushed the first time Amy smiled at him. Maybe they would have built something together. A family. A life. But here, now, Liam only felt the cruel twist of fate. He had met her first. He had felt this connection first. He had wanted her first. But he would never get to keep her. Amy turned her head slightly, her gaze soft and curious. Liam, you're quiet. Just thinking, he managed. About what? She asked gently. You. Us. The impossibility of this. He forced a smile instead. Colors? The sky? Everything looks different here. Her lips curved. You see the world so beautifully. He swallowed hard. I wish I had more time to paint it. Amy didn't understand the meaning behind those words, but they struck her anyway. She reached out, brushing a speck of sand from his sleeve. A small gesture, innocent, tender. It nearly broke him. She cared. She was beginning to care. And Liam? He was falling, dangerously, irrevocably. Every moment with her felt stolen, precious, slipping through fingers he couldn't hold tighter. Every sunrise with her hurt more than the last.
Every laugh she shared made his heart ache with the weight of all the tomorrows he would never see. And for the first time, Liam wished, selfishly, impossibly, that time would slow down. Just long enough for him to memorize her voice, her scent, the softness in her eyes, the shape her laughter made in the air. He regretted meeting her. He regretted not meeting her sooner. He regretted knowing he didn't have forever with her. And each day that passed, each hour they spent together, that regret braided itself with something deeper, something sweeter, something he knew he had no right to want. Hope. A painful, forbidden hope that made him wish for a life he would never live. Amy stared at the door, her fingers trembling around the key card the receptionist had pressed into her hand. "Mr. Liam checked out this morning. He said to give you this if you came by." The woman had told her gently. Checked out? Without a word? Without her?
Her heart thudded painfully as she slid the key into the lock. The door swung open with the softest click, yet the silence that greeted her felt deafening. The room was spotless, peaceful, almost too peaceful, like someone had tried to erase themselves from it. Then she saw it, a canvas propped on the easel by the balcony window, sunlight illuminating it like something sacred. Her. Liam had painted her, not just her face, not just her smile. He had captured the exact emotion she never dared voice aloud, the moment he'd looked at her like she was the only living thing in the universe. A moment she had dismissed as imagination because Liam never let it become more, never crossed that line, no matter how close they drifted. Amy moved toward the painting as though in a dream, her eyes burning. A folded sheet of paper sat on the table beneath it, his handwriting unmistakable. She picked it up and read. With every line, her knees weakened. He told her about his illness, how long he had known, how little time he had left, how he'd come to the resort to paint out his final days on earth, to breathe beauty until he couldn't anymore, how meeting her had ruined his resolve. "You made me wish I had more time, Amy. You made me wish for things I can never have. I cared too much to let you watch me fade. I cared too much to keep you close." A sob slipped from her lips, shattering the stillness. He wrote that he had gone home, to his brothers, because he wanted to spend what was left surrounded by family. That he didn't want her last image of him to be sickness, stealing him piece by piece. At the bottom of the page, he'd left an address with one final line. "If you ever choose to come, it will probably be for my funeral. I will understand." The paper crumpled slightly in her grip as the truth crashed over her. The longing she'd seen in his eyes, the tension between them, the way he held himself back at every turn, it hadn't been hesitation. It had been goodbye. Amy sank onto the edge of his bed, the tears coming in violent waves. She cried like her heart was shattering into pieces too small to gather. All the stolen moments, all the glances, the conversations that left them breathless. She had wondered why he never took their connection further. Now she knew. He was dying. And still, he painted her like she was his last masterpiece. Amy stood frozen in the marble foyer of Liam's penthouse, her breath catching painfully as the door swung shut behind her. The world felt muted, the air too still, like even the walls were mourning. She'd come as soon as she could. A week, a single week after his letter. Too late. Footsteps echoed from the hall. Two men approached, both dressed in black. Leo appeared first, broad, steady, his eyes red-rimmed from sleepless nights. Behind him, another man stepped into view, and Amy's heart slammed against her ribs so hard she swayed. Levi. It was like seeing Liam again. The resemblance was uncanny, the same striking eyes, the same strong jaw,
but where Liam had always looked like the world weighed on him, Levi carried himself like he bore it for others, confident, sure, powerful, and alive. Amy's throat constricted. The grief she'd been struggling to contain burst like a dam breaking. A sound tore from her chest, raw and broken. Leo reached her first, pulling her into a tight, grounding embrace. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, emotion thick in his voice. "He spoke about you, more than you know."
Her tears soaked the front of his shirt, her knees nearly giving out. She clung to him because the alternative was collapsing on the cold floor. Levi didn't move, didn't speak. He only stared. Recognition, sharp, visceral, hit him in the solar plexus. His chest rose and fell once, deeply, like he'd been punched. Liam had warned him. "You'll recognize her instantly, Lee. You won't even know why at first." He'd laugh then, teasing his twin. What, is she some goddess descending from the clouds? But now, looking at Amy, her tear-streaked face, her trembling hands, the kind of quiet beauty that felt like coming home, he understood. She was exactly Levi's type, exactly what he had always imagined but never found. Perfect, grounded, gentle, breathtaking. His twin brother had loved her. And Liam had held back, not because he hadn't wanted her, but because he had known. He had known Levi would. Leo slowly released her, offering her a tissue before stepping aside. Amy lifted her gaze and found Levi's eyes locked on her, grief and realization warring within them. For a moment, neither of them breathed. Levi understood then, truly, painfully, what Liam had done. He had suppressed his own longing, smothered every spark, walked away from a woman who made him wish for more time, so that Levi could have a chance at something he himself would never live to claim. Levi's jaw clenched, his eyes burning, not just with grief, but guilt. Amy wiped her cheeks, her voice cracking as she whispered, "Is he already?" Leo answered softly, "He passed yesterday morning. The funeral is in a few hours." Amy's knees buckled again, but this time it was Levi who stepped forward instinctively, his hand hovering near her elbow, like he wanted to steady her, yet feared touching her would break something sacred, or awaken something he shouldn't feel. Not today. Not here. Not like this. Levi hadn't planned to see her again so soon, but Liam had left more. 2 additional paintings, each wrapped carefully, with Amy's name written in Liam's unmistakable scrawl. Levi carried them to her apartment with a knot in his stomach. Amy opened the door slowly, surprise flickering in her eyes before it softened into something gentler, tired, fragile. "Levi," she whispered. He swallowed. "Liam wanted you to have these." When he handed her the first canvas, their fingers brushed. A brief touch, barely anything, but it was enough. His chest tightened, her breath hitched. The hallway suddenly felt too small, too warm, too intimate, as if Liam's paintings were pushing them closer with a gravity neither of them could resist. He never told me he painted more," she murmured, holding the canvases against her heart. "I didn't know either," Levi said quietly. "I found them in his studio." A beat of silence. Then she looked up at him, eyes shimmering, and whispered, "Thank you." Levi should have stepped back, should have turned and walked away. But instead, he lingered long enough to memorize the way the warm light hit her skin, long enough for his pulse to betray him. He left before he did something reckless, but the moment stayed with both of them, sharp as a heartbeat, dangerous as a spark. The next time they met was pure coincidence, or fate, depending on the angle. Amy had found Levi's cufflink on her rug after he left.
She told herself bringing it to his office was the polite thing to do, the respectful thing. But her hands trembled as she waited in the sleek lobby of 3L Corp. Levi stepped out of the elevator, crisp suit, grief-shadowed eyes, hair slightly tousled from running his hand through it too many times. Their gazes collided. She held the small silver cufflink between her fingers. "This fell off at my place." He reached out to take it, and his fingers brushed hers again, longer this time, intentional. His hand curled around the metal slowly, like he was reluctant to break the contact. "Thank you," he murmured, voice low, rough. Her pulse skittered. The hum of elevators, the soft chatter from reception, the polished floors all faded. It felt like they stood in a bubble where only the two of them existed. Too close, too aware. Amy stepped back first, swallowing. "I should go." Levi nodded, but his eyes said something else entirely, something unspoken, forbidden, and growing harder to hide. She fled the building, her heart pounding wildly. Amy almost didn't go. She'd spent hours debating, guilt gnawing at her, but she owed Liam more than silence, more than hiding. The remembrance was small, just close family and a few friends, gathered on the penthouse terrace lit with soft lanterns. Amy slipped in quietly. Levi found her anyway. He stood at the balcony railing, staring out at the city lights like they carried answers he couldn't bear to voice. When he turned, the sadness in his eyes was staggering. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. "I had to," she whispered. A long silence stretched, heavy, aching, electric. Then Levi exhaled shakily. "I keep trying to avoid you." "Me too." "But every time I see you," he shook his head, helpless, "I feel like I'm betraying him, and yet—" She closed her eyes. "Levi, please don't." He stepped closer, just one step, but it felt like crossing a line neither of them could retreat from. "Amy," he whispered, voice cracking. "I can't stop thinking about you." Her breath escaped in a trembling gasp. And then it happened. A pull too strong to fight. Their lips met, soft at first, almost a question, then deeper, desperate, aching with everything they'd buried for weeks. Her hands fisted in his shirt, his arms wrapped around him like he'd been waiting his whole life. It was grief. It was longing. It was wrong. It was inevitable. When they broke apart, Amy staggered back, pressing her hand to her mouth. "Oh God," she whispered, tears springing to her eyes. "What have we done?" Levi looked devastated, breath coming in shallow bursts. "Amy." "No," her voice cracked. I can't do this to him, or myself." She turned and fled into the night, leaving Levi on the balcony, fists clenched, with the taste of their kiss and a grief that felt brand new. Amy sat on the couch in her living room, knees hugged tight to her chest, staring blankly at the muted television. But the flickering screen did nothing to distract her. The events of the past weeks gnawed at her, relentless. Her lips still tingled from that kiss, that stolen, impossible kiss. Her chest ached, her heart refused to calm, and the one thought that would not leave her mind made her feel like she'd betrayed everything sacred. Since meeting Levi, she hadn't thought of Liam once. She swallowed hard. Even though Levi and Liam were identical, Levi wasn't Liam. He was magnetic, dangerous in the way he drew her in without even trying, in the way he filled a room with his presence, with a warmth that made her ache to be near him. And that pull, it made her feel like a traitor. "I'm betraying him," she whispered to the empty room, her voice trembling. "Every thought, every heartbeat, it's not him, not Liam. And yet—" Her fingers twitched restlessly in her lap. Yet again she had tried to bury her longing, to suppress the fire in her chest, but it flared up each time she thought of Levi, the way his gaze lingered, the way his presence made the world shift around her. Weeks passed. She tried to avoid him, tried to stay distant, tried to honor Liam, but fate, or maybe Liam himself, had other plans. One late afternoon, a knock came at her door. Amy froze, her heart hammering. Levi. She opened the door to find him standing there tense, shadows under his eyes, clutching a single envelope. "Amy," his voice was low, brittle with emotion. I found something I think you need to see." She hesitated, but the gravity in his tone made her step aside. He entered, offering the envelope like it was the most fragile thing in the world. My fingers shook just holding it," he admitted, his voice rough. "It's from Liam." Amy's throat tightened. "From him?" "For both of us," Levi said softly. He sat on the edge of the couch, careful to give her space, and placed the envelope in her lap. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakable. Liam. Every loop, every curl, every flourish. It was him, alive in ink. Amy read aloud, her voice trembling. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone. I know this might hurt terribly, but I have to ask something of you both. Levi, my other half, and Amy, my brightest surprise. I hope, no, I believe, that when you meet each other, you will fall in love. I see it in the corners of every glance, every smile, every shared silence you never know about. I hope you do not feel guilt, and I hope you do not hold back. Love each other, laugh together, live with your hearts open. That is the last thing I can ask of you. I couldn't be there for you, both of you, but if you are brave enough to live and love, I will be with you in spirit, always." Amy's hands shook violently as she pressed the letter to her chest, tears spilling down her cheeks. Levi's voice broke the silence. He wanted this for us, for both of us. He knew it would happen, and he wanted us to be allowed to feel it without guilt." Amy's lips quivered, and she whispered, He hoped we'd fall for each other?" Levi nodded slowly, his eyes dark with longing and pain. "I think I already have." The room went silent, save for the sound of their uneven breaths. The air was electric, heavy with unspoken desire, grief, and the wild, forbidden hope Liam had left them. Amy's heart raced. She knew the fire in Levi's gaze mirrored her own. She could feel it in every fiber of her body, how alive she felt, how dangerous it was, how completely irresistible he had become. And yet, guilt gnawed at her soul. "He loved you," she whispered finally, voice cracking, "and I can't betray him." Levi reached toward her, fingers trembling, stopping inches from her hand. "I know," he said, "but he wouldn't want us to stop living, to stop feeling. Not for him, not for anything." Amy closed her eyes, swallowing hard. Her heart was on fire, her body aching, and for the first time she let herself feel the pull Liam had seen, the pull Liam had wanted her to follow. Levi didn't push. He didn't demand.
But he didn't disappear either. He came to Amy's apartment with small bouquets, sometimes lilies, sometimes roses, sometimes wildflowers, he said, reminded him of her quiet beauty. He brought her meals when he knew she'd been too drained to cook, warm soups, creamy pasta, spicy jollof, soft bread with honey butter. And they ate together, sitting across her small dining table, the air full of the warmth of unspoken truths. Each time he visited, the space between them felt charged, alive with something they were both fighting not to reach for. And the more Levi learned about her, the way she bit her lip when she was thinking, the way she talked to stray cats like they understood her, the way she cried at documentaries about abandoned puppies, the more something deep, fierce, and entirely unstoppable rooted itself in his chest. Liam had been right. Levi was hopelessly, helplessly, completely in love with Amy. But Amy still resisted. Not because she didn't feel something, but because she felt everything. Every time Levi touched her hand by mistake or gave her that soft, devastating smile, guilt clawed at her, guilt for moving on, guilt for feeling more for Levi in months than she ever had for Liam in all their weeks. She wanted him. She was terrified of him. She was drowning in feelings that didn't make sense, yet made all the sense in the world. And then life decided for her. It was evening when her phone rang. She almost ignored it until she saw the caller ID. Leo. Her heart dropped. "Amy," Leo said, breathless, strained. "It's Levi. He collapsed at work. They think it was exhaustion, but the doctors are running tests. Can you come, please?" The world tilted. Amy didn't remember grabbing her keys. She didn't remember the drive. All she remembered was bursting into the hospital room, breathless, terrified, and finding Levi lying on the bed, pale but very much alive. His eyes snapped open the moment he sensed her. "Amy." She rushed to his bedside, grabbing his hand instinctively, clutching it to her chest like she needed proof he was real, alive, breathing. "Don't you ever do that again! Do you hear me? Don't you dare scare me like that!" Levi blinked at her. Then something in his expression shifted. He lifted a hand and cupped her cheek, thumb stroking her skin with heartbreaking tenderness. "You came." "How could I not?" Her voice cracked. "Levi, She didn't finish because he gently pulled her closer until their foreheads touched, breaths mingling, the world shrinking to nothing but their two pounding hearts. "Levi," his voice was rough, vulnerable. "I love you." Her breath hitched. He continued, voice breaking open. "I loved you before I met you. Liam described you so vividly that I think my heart started preparing for you before my eyes ever saw you. And the moment I did, I knew you were it for me." Tears slipped down Amy's cheeks as something inside her finally snapped. The guilt, the fear, the doubt, all crumbling under the sheer force of what she felt for him. "I love you too," she whispered fiercely. "More than I ever expected, more than I ever loved Liam, and I'm tired of pretending I don't." His exhale trembled, relief and longing woven together. He tugged her gently, and she went willingly, sinking into his arms, their lips meeting in a kiss that was slow, deep, devastatingly intimate. The hospital room disappeared. Time disappeared. It was just them, two souls who had been circling each other for months, finally colliding without barriers. And in that moment, Amy realized that life really was too short to fear love. 6 months later. They married exactly 6 months later. Levi's eyes never left her as she walked down the aisle. Leo stood proudly as best man. Amy's parents cried as Levi vowed to love her fiercely, gently, honestly, every day of his life. The ceremony was small, beautiful, perfect. On the plain, a soft golden glow from the overhead lights bathed Amy's face. Her wedding ring glittered as she leaned against Levi's shoulder. He watched her with a look so full of adoration it nearly stole her breath. He touched her chin gently, guiding her to face him. "Amy?" "Yes," she smiled. He kissed her knuckles before whispering, "You were a gift from my brother." Her chest tightened, emotion, love, gratitude washing over her in a flood. Levi continued softly, "He gave me the greatest blessing of my life, and I'll spend every day honoring that by loving you the way you deserve." Amy cupped his face, tears shining in her eyes. "And I'll spend every day loving you back." Levi pulled her close, resting his forehead on hers. And as the plane soared into the clouds, Amy realized something beautiful. Liam had started her story, but Levi was her forever. If this story touched your heart even for a moment, please like, share, and subscribe. It costs nothing. Every click, every share, every new subscriber gives life to more stories of love, loss, longing, and the kind of second chances that heal us. If Levi and Amy's journey made you feel something, a tug in your chest, a sting behind your eyes, a warmth you didn't expect, then help this story find someone else who needs it too. Your support means everything, and together we'll keep creating love stories that stay with you long after the last line.